Welcome to Conflict Resolution and De-Escalation Part 1, the art and science of managing conflicts within opioid support service delivery. This training is brought to you by 3C Recovery Support Training Institute, which is the training academy of the Light of Truth Center, and IRIS, Innovations in Recovery through Infrastructure Support. I am Tyrell Moyd, the principal facilitator for 3C Recovery Support Training Institute. I have been honored to train, supervise, mentor, and support individuals working in various behavioral health professions since 2012. It's important that as practitioners who serve others, we realize that it's not just important that we serve, it's equally important how we serve. I want to be a part of the process that encourages individuals to serve well. I'm joined today in this training by my co-facilitator, Reverend Vale Leonard.
Good afternoon, everyone. So glad to be here, so excited to be here. I'm Reverend Vale Leonard. I am the founder of the Light of Truth Center, a behavioral health system for women recovering from drugs and alcohol. I have been in service to the recovery community for many, many years. And as we continue to grow and unfold and build a recovery movement, we are here to provide training for families, training for individuals, training for those in long-term recovery.
Thank you. This training is made available to you because of sponsorship of NIH, the National Institute on Drug Abuse, the University of Maryland School of Social Work, and IRIS. The core IRIS activities: 1, data, infrastructure, and capacity building. IRIS supports organizations to securely collect, analyze, and present data while also developing its own repository against which organizations can track its progress and create more effective services. 2, recovery research programs. IRIS offers funding for organizations to engage in pilot projects to answer important research questions around opioid recovery support services. And 3, training series. IRIS partners with leading organizations like 3C Recovery Support Training Institute to deliver high quality workshops that relate to research and or develop capacity for organizations to more deeply evaluate their impact on the field. This webinar is part 1 of a 3-part series. The objective of today's webinar are to define what conflict is and how it may come about, to explore how conflict can be a productive part of life and relationship building, to examine the types of conflicts and styles used to manage them, focusing on those that most often lead to productive resolution, to identify how values and culture may influence conflicts and how to integrate these understandings into effective conflict resolution.
From time to time, we will encounter conflict. How will you manage and resolve conflict is dependent upon many factors. Learning how to manage conflict is a process, a skill, and can be learned like any other skill. Together, we will explore the various ways that influence our behavior and often create conflict and ways to address it. When working with others, it is important to provide services that are stage appropriate. We must meet people where they are. Conflict resolution is no different. As we learn the process, remember to always use the process in a manner that is stage appropriate. Be aware of the stages of change. What stage are the participants who are involved in the process in? If they are in recovery, what stage of recovery are they in? If participants are involved in behavioral health services, be aware. Bring all your talents, skills, and abilities to the table. So let's start by defining conflict. What is conflict? A form of competitive behavior between people or groups under circumstances in which two or more people compete over perceived or actual incompatible goals or resources. A situation neither good nor bad that contains qualities of competitiveness and perceived or actual incompatibility. So as we move forward in talking about conflict, talking about resolution, let's also define solutions and resolutions. Solution is defined as a means of solving a problem or dealing with a difficult situation. And resolution is defined as the act of finding an answer or solution to a conflict, problem, etc., or the act of resolving something, an answer or solution to something. The resolving or concluding of a dispute or disagreement. So what's the difference? A solution is proposed. A resolution is the result of the actual implementation of a solution. Conflict resolution is conceptualized as the methods and processes involved in facilitating the peaceful ending of conflict and retribution. So let's take a moment and just review the upcoming slide.
Resolving conflict. In any decision-making process, there is potential for conflict to develop. People may find it difficult to work together because they have different values and interests, or because their personalities and attitudes are not compatible. Conflict that is not properly handled can have a negative effect on council activities. It can reduce productivity and affect the morale and confidence of council members. However, well-managed conflict can help to clarify issues. It can create new opportunities for discussion and strengthen relationships among members. Here is a helpful list. Number 1, acknowledge that there is a problem. Clarify and clearly state the concerns, needs, and interests of the people involved in the dispute. Emphasize the ground rules. Adopt a positive tone and a problem-solving attitude. Set ground rules that will help maintain a courteous, respectful environment for discussion. Some of these ground rules could be no interruptions, respect each person's opinion, address the issue and not the person, or each member is encouraged to contribute. Number 3, look for areas of agreement. Start by helping members find common ground. Identify areas of agreement before addressing the differences. Number 4, affirm the value of different opinions. Discuss the fact that different opinions are natural in a group. Help members separate the opinion from the person holding the opinion, and do not allow personal attacks. Focus on the problem, not the person. Number 5, listen to everyone's point of view. Let council members express their opinions and perspectives. People will be more willing to discuss alternatives if you acknowledge and legitimize their right to hold particular points of view, even if you don't agree with them. Number 6, define the conflict early. Make sure you understand the issue causing the conflict and that you are focusing on the right problem. Try to identify any assumptions, expectations, misinformation, or lack of information that may be influencing members' opinions. Many conflicts can be resolved by improving communication and explaining issues carefully. Number 7, create solutions. Identify a range of options for solving the problem. Invite others in the group to help resolve the conflict. List the advantages and disadvantages of each option. And finally, number 8, choose a solution. Choose the best solution and follow up to make sure that it is carried out. We hope that this list has been helpful in how to resolve conflict among council members. Thank you. Take care.
Conflict is not always negative. Conflict can be useful, and it can be very productive. Conflict can actually build relationships and identify common ground where you were unaware of previously. The process of resolving conflict can initiate creativity, enhance skills, and abilities. This is a quote from Mary Parker Fuller. It is possible to conceive of conflicts as not necessarily a wasteful outbreak of incompatibilities, but a normal process by which socially valuable differences register themselves for the enrichment of all concerned.
We can encounter conflict in any setting. As the behavioral health community, we are not exempt. And each of our behavioral health settings may bring their own type of conflict. In a residential setting, individuals integrating into a multi-residential setting can be stressed by the experience, and this can cause conflict. In outreach, conflicts may arise because individuals feel less than and ashamed of their situation, and sometimes causes conflict. In our clinical and often in our treatment settings, individuals feel like they are being treated as objects, and this belief, whether true or false, can cause conflict among individuals. Many individuals have reported negative experiences in an emergency department related to their opioid use. This feeling that their needs, health, and wellness are not as vital as others in an emergency department have led to heightened anxiety and negative interactions with staff. Even in recovery community organizations, we enter this profession excited and ready to serve, and we must recognize that individuals both in and seeking recovery may be at various stages of change and recovery. So we must be cognizant that we are offering appropriate support. When support does not align with where the person really is, conflict happens.
Now, let us take a look at the structure of conflict. Experts in conflict resolution have identified 6 categories by the types of issues around which they occur. It is helpful to identify and be able to recognize the various types of conflict. Let's take a look. Relationship conflicts, identity conflicts, interest conflicts, data conflicts, and value conflicts, as well as cultural conflicts. Now let's take a look at each one. Relationship conflicts concern the way people view and treat one another. We are all in relationships of some sort: friendships, partnerships, co-workers, and peers, each coming from different backgrounds, each communicating differently, and each one functioning from its own value system. Identity conflicts occur when people sense that the very essence of who they are has been attacked, belittled, or ignored. We live in a diverse world. Oftentimes, we don't recognize or understand one another's behaviors or beliefs. Various cultures speak in a certain way, have cultural gestures and norms. Identity conflicts are often based on racial, ethnic, gender, religious, or other differences in people's identities. When we are unaware of differences, a person may feel unheard, unappreciated, or even attacked. Interest conflicts. Interest conflicts are about actual or perceived incompatibility of needs or desires. When working with a recovery, peer, or coworker, interest conflicts may arise. You may have issues around how things are done, procedures within an organization, or how the peer process is managed. That may arise. Who's making decisions? Have I been empowered to make decisions? Are we working together? Are we all inclusive, respecting, trusting, and building relationships as we work and serve? Interest conflicts could involve culture or religion or ethnicity, appearances, ability, or other personal characteristics. Data conflict, notes and documentation. As the peer and behavioral health opportunities expand, documentation has grown and has become an ever-growing component of service. Data conflicts are disagreements about information, how information is gathered, how information is documented, and how it is being used or analyzed. It's an old saying in the field, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. Let's talk about value conflicts. Values are defined as the beliefs that give meaning to an individual's life and guide decision-making. Value conflicts occur when one person or group tries to impose their belief system upon another individual or group. We often see value conflicts when working with multiple pathways of recovery or embracing concepts of harm reduction. Working with deeply rooted value systems can be challenging. Generally, a person only changes their individual values when they choose to. Meet people where they are. Acknowledge others' values, even if you don't agree. So let us take a look at cultural conflict. Organizational culture. Organizational culture. Every organization has its own culture. The organization's culture is generally created by the leadership. However, it is ingrained by the workers, the atmosphere in the organization, the appearance, and how you feel when you walk in the door. You can feel it. Are the people engaging or are they cool? Now, organizational conflict can occur when the needs of the people don't match the organizational culture. There will be conflict. If the individual does not embrace the mission, vision, or core beliefs, conflict may occur between staff, participants, and management. Many conflicts are rooted in our value system and cultural influences. Can you see how easy it is for one's value system to influence every decision, every concept, and every opinion? Our basic fundamental beliefs guide our motives, attitudes, actions, and reactions. They help us to determine what is important to us. Values describe the personal qualities we choose to embody. When our value systems are out of alignment with each other, there is conflict. Often, we don't even notice or recognize when the disagreement is based in our value systems. Values such as honesty, kindness, compassion, respect, and personal responsibility influence our day-to-day decisions, behaviors, and interactions. But how do we learn to develop our personal values? And what part does culture, family, and community play in the development of our values? Can we see how important it is to recognize how values shape conflict? Now let's talk about culture and why it is relevant to conflict. Culture is the characteristics and knowledge of a particular group of people, encompassing language, religion, food, social habits, music, and arts. Culture is defined as an umbrella term, which encompasses the social behavior and norms found in human societies, as well as the knowledge, beliefs, arts, laws, custom, capabilities, and habits of the individuals in these groups. As we further explore values and cultures as an underlying basis of conflict, let's go a little deeper. Can you remember a time in your life when you experienced conflict? The first meaningful conflict you remember. Can you remember what you were thinking? Can you remember what you were feeling? Did you have an option to do something different? And if you did you recognize you could choose something different? Where did those thoughts and feelings originate? So how do we learn about conflict? Most of us learned about conflict with our family of origin. Our techniques and understanding were learned behaviors. We watched other family, friends, and community deal with conflict in a certain way. In some households, spoken or unspoken rules state what goes on behind closed doors stays behind closed doors, and or disagreements are not discussed openly. In other families may view arguments as healthy and a way of communicating. Yet, in extreme cases, conflict is managed in a physical manner. These examples illustrate but a few ways we, as children, have experienced conflict in our families and communities. These early experiences influence how we deal with conflict throughout our lives. In the midst of conflict, our learned behaviors tend to surface, no matter how old we are.
So how do we deal with conflict? I love this picture. It reads, if you want people to listen to you, listen to them. Very simply stated, and at times this can be challenging, especially when we feel we are right. So dealing with conflict, there are 5 ways we deal with conflict: competing behavior, accommodating behavior, avoiding behavior, compromising behavior, and collaborating behavior. Let's look at each of these individually. Number 1, competing behavior. Competing behavior is a style in which a person addresses his or her own concerns with little regard for the concerns of others. It is frequently associated with the use of power, winning for its own sake, or defending a position believed to be right. One of the things I often remind individuals, there's a time to do right versus being right. Competing behavior can be useful in emergencies when quick decisions are vital. Number 2, accommodating behavior. Accommodating behavior is a style in which a person neglects their own concerns to satisfy those of other people. It can be associated with self-sacrifice and selflessness, or with the lack of assertiveness for fear. This behavior is often seen in caregivers, especially when they are new to their occupation. For some, it may be a part of their personality trait. That's why it's important for us to look at these so we can prepare to serve well. It is useful when a concern is of much greater importance to one person than another. It is often used when preserving harmony is essential. Number 3, avoiding behavior. Avoiding behavior is a style in which a person does not address their own concerns or those of the other person. It is used to sidestep or postpone dealing with issues or to withdraw from a threatening situation. Behavioral health workers who want to keep the peace at all costs often find themselves avoiding behavior. It is helpful when people need to cool down before addressing a conflict. Number 4, compromising behavior. Compromising behavior is a style in which people exchange concerns on less important issues to gain agreement on their most important ones. It is common when people are negotiating about some resources. Often we have to compromise with those that we are serving. Compromising behavior is particularly helpful in developing temporary settlements or in arriving at an expedient decision under the pressure of time. And finally, number 5, collaborating behavior. Collaborating behavior is a style in which a person tries to work with other people to satisfy the key concerns to all involved. It is useful when the issues in the conflict are too important to be compromised. We may need to help individuals discover their key concerns when they are upset. Collaborating behavior is helpful when people must maintain positive relationships after the conflict is resolved.
Managing and resolving conflict. Now that we have defined conflict, we've talked about the origin of conflict, values and cultural influences, the structure of conflict, and various ways we address conflict. Well, how do we resolve it? Often, it is our tendency to mull over the conflict rather than looking for a solution. Often, this prevents effective resolution. Let us work to become solution-oriented. Stay focused on the resolution. As we manage conflict, we're managing conflict. Often in conflicts, frustrations grow when people feel or believe they have not been heard. Everyone wants to be heard. Take time to listen, really listen. Allow each party to identify the conflict as they understand it. Managing conflict has several tools that we can use. One is affirm and restate. Affirming and restating helps everyone involved to know and understand that they've been heard. Restating helps us to check our understanding of what others are saying. When used effectively, This tool helps to establish a rapport, deepening our understanding of emotions and the scope of the conflict. If we are to manage a conflict, it is imperative to establish trust from the very beginning and to be neutral or impartial. It is essential and critical throughout the process. It is natural for individuals to try and get their point across. However, we must remain neutral. Remember to ask good questions and remember to manage your own stuff. No matter how people behave, don't judge, don't correct or belittle people, don't take sides, be impartial and even-handed. Remember, we are working towards a resolution and everyone, absolutely everyone in the process must be valued. One of the most critical and often overlooked steps in the conflict resolution process is to create and establish a safe space, establish an energy of safety. Think about what makes you feel safe in an uneasy or uncomfortable situation. A calm tone of voice. Do not stand over a person or assume a threatening posture. Depending on the situation, stand a few feet away, or if you sit, invite them to sit. Be aware of your body language and facial expressions. Know when to intervene. If people are engaged in a heated argument, stay safe and do your best to keep everyone safe. Get help when needed. Now that you have heard both sides of the story and gathered the necessary information, be solution and resolution oriented. No blaming. What is it we need to do to move forward? To come to a working resolution, we must have a good, healthy starting point. So we must work to establish common ground. We are both here to provide a service. Let's establish that. We are here to complete a project. We are here for the greater good. We may not think alike, but we have common goals. Whenever we are working with conflict resolution, we will always be confronted with people who are upset. So how do we assist upset people? Let's first identify what happens when a person is upset, because that's very important. When a person is under stress, the whole body goes on alert. We go into the fight or flight mode. The brain, the limbic portion of the brain, prepares to respond to danger, while the activity in the cortex, the thinking part of the brain, slows. It actually slows. Think about that for a moment. When you encounter an upset person, you are dealing with this phenomenon. So what do? Assisting upset people. Creating an environment to establish calm. Take a moment to engage the person. If you know them, say their name in a calm manner to break the cycle. If you don't know them, introduce yourself and ask them their name. Move to a quiet place if possible, especially when the interaction is occurring in a public space. Consider your own safety too, as you select the new area. Speak softly, even if people are yelling. They will, in time, quiet down. Invite an upset person to sit down and sit down with them. Help the upset person tell their story. Let them tell you why they are upset. Hear them out fully. Don't judge or interrupt. Indicate understanding by nodding and by making affirming sounds or statements. Ask questions for clarification when necessary. Use active listening techniques. Make encouraging comments like, "How can I be of service?" Or, "I can see you are really upset. Do you want to talk about it?" Ask neutral, clarifying questions such as, "Is there something I can do to support you?" Restate what you understand using questions such as, "So let me be clear, are you saying?" Or, "Did I understand you to say?" Acknowledge their emotions and the importance of the situation to them with a safe statement such as, "I can see this is challenging for you." Let them know you got it. You heard them. Use body language as well as words. Lean towards the person slightly. Indicate that you're really listening to them, that you're really invested. Have an open stance or sitting position. Avoid crossed arms and legs. Avoid fidgeting or fiddling. Look the person in the eye if it is culturally appropriate. Convey empathy and understanding. Speak genuinely. Be sincere. If there is something that you can do to support them, do it. Even small gestures can be meaningful when someone is upset. If the situation requires additional support, talk with the person about what they can expect. If you have to get back to them and let them know that, and set up a time to continue to talk. If you need to engage someone else to talk with them, be upfront and let them know that.
Thank you for being with us today. For the references used in this webinar, they are listed here on this page and can be made available to you. Please join the IRIS network. You're welcome to join IRIS by following the hyperlink to www.umaryland.edu/IRIS. We can also be reached at iris@ssw.umaryland.edu. Thank you for your time and attention. We look forward to seeing you in part 2 of this webinar series. Thank you.